ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। सदाशिवसमारंभां शंकराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। शङ्कारूपेण मच्चित्तं पङ्कीकृतमभूद्यया किङ्करीयस्य सावाया शङ्कराचार्यमाश्रये। प्रह्लादवरदो देवो यो नृसिंहः परो हरिः नृसिंहोपासकं नित्यं तं नृसिंहगुरुं भजे। श्रीसच्चिदानन्दशिवाभिनव्यनृसिंहभारत्यभिधान्यतीन्द्रान् विद्यानिधीं मन्त्रनिधीं सदात्मनिष्ठान् भजे मानवशम्भुरूपान्। सदात्मध्याननिरतं वृषकेभ्यः पराङ्मुखं नौमि शास्त्रेषु निष्णातं चन्द्रशेखरभारतीं। विवेकिनं महाप्रज्ञं धैर्यौदार्यक्षमानिधिं सदाभिनवपूर्वं तं विद्यातीर्थगुरुं भजे। भारतीकरुणापात्रं भारतीपदभूषणं भारतीपदमारूढं भारतीतीर्थमाश्रये। विद्याविनयसम्पन्नं वीतरागं विवेकिनं वन्दे वेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञं विदुषेखरभारतीम्। Om. In the last session, we were looking at the verse number 45 from Atmabodha. Sthano Purushavadbhrantya Krita Brahmani Jivata Jivasya Tattvike Rupe Tasmin Drishte Nivattate. Brahmani Bhrantya Jivata Krita. Shankaracharya is saying. That is, the wrong assumption that we are a jiva, the jivatva or the jivata, jivaness, is a result of bhranti or of confusion, of misunderstanding. And the misunderstanding is born out of the ignorance of our true nature as Brahman. So Shankaracharya is saying that Jiva and Brahma are not two different entities. The misunderstood Brahman is Jiva, correctly understood Jiva is Brahman. And he says that this is like how a pillar, a sthanu, is in the dark, is mistaken for a Purusha, for a person. So we are naturally more fearful in the dark, and in the distance we see a pillar, and it looks like a thief is standing there waiting to pounce on us. And that is a result of the bhranti of a false supposition that it is a Purusha. And that false supposition that the object is a Purusha is because we do not know what that object is. There is the ignorance of the object's true nature as a pillar, which makes us mistake it for a Purusha, a thief. Similarly, our true nature is Brahman, but because of Brahma Ajnana or ignorance of Brahman, we mistake ourselves for a Jiva. And what is this Jivatva? Shankaracharya will explain in the subsequent verses that we will look at today. And that is essentially Kartrutva, or a sense that I am a doer, the Bhoktrutva, I am an experiencer, that I am a finite human being, that this physical body, this mind, this individual, I am so and so, born in this place, I am a son or a daughter, I am a father, I am a mother, I am a grandfather, grandmother. All of that, husband, wife, all of that is born out of a fundamental misunderstanding of who we are. All of that is Jivatva. And then from there comes relationships with Anatma, etc. And Shankaracharya says, Jivasya tattvike rupe drishte sati, when the true nature of the Jiva, tattvika rupa, true nature of the Jiva is seen, that Bhranti is removed, is destroyed. Tasmin drishte nivartate. When the true nature is seen, the Jivatva, which was a result of Bhranti, the Jivatva is gone. So the cause of the jivatva is Bhranti. The cause of the Bhranti is Ajnana. So seeing the true nature of the jiva as Brahman is jnana. That jnana destroys ajnana, and Bhranti being the product of ajnana, that product is destroyed when the cause is destroyed. So when ajnana is destroyed, its product, its which is Bhranti or confusion or misunderstanding, is also destroyed. And the jivata or the jivaness, this finitude that one assumes, that finitude also is destroyed. And therefore, there is the experience of infinite bliss, the acceptance that one is the infinity. So then we will look at verse number 46. Tattvasvaroopanubhavat utpannam jnanamanjasa aham mameti jnanam badhate digbhamadipat. So the same idea is being repeated in a different language. In the previous verse, the Shankaracharya had said that one of the phala or the results of jnana phala. So from verse number 42 onwards, we have been looking at jnana phalam, the different benefits of jnana. He had said it's ajnana nasha, samsara nasha, it's atma prapti, it's ananda prapti. Here he is saying it's jivatva nivritti, was what he had said previously. Now he is explaining what is this jivatva really. So Shankaracharya says that swarupanubhavat, when the real nature of jivatma as Brahman, as the asamsari, is owned up, is directly realized. So here by anubhava, what Shankaracharya actually means is anusandhanam or vichara, inquiry. As I continue to inquire upon the true nature of the self continuously, as I continue to dwell upon the true nature of the self as has been taught by the Guru, as has been taught by Shruti, my true nature is automatically understood by me. Utpannam jnanam. Jnanam, or the knowledge of my true nature, rises. And when that rises, he says, aham mameti cha ajnanam anjasa badhate. That jnanam instantaneously, anjasa means instantaneously destroys ajnanam, and ajnanam and its byproducts. And here the byproduct of ajnana, where Shankaracharya previously had said was jivata, now he's explaining what the jivata is. He is saying it's ahamkara and mamakara. Ahamkara means ego, mamakara means the sense of possession. So Shankaracharya is saying jivatva is ahamkara and mamakara. So any relationship with anatma, taking the body or the mind as I and taking on this finitude, when you say I am a human, what is that I there? That I there refers to the ego. The ego is identifying itself with the human body. It is I am a human. And so mamakara then becomes all those things that belong to me. Me meaning the ego. And what are those things that belong to the ego? It's our family, our possessions, our children, anything, our job, anything that is not the Atma, but that which we think is ours, and consequently we think we belong to them also. So this is what Shankaracharya uh, in the beginning of the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, in the Bhashya, he describes samsara is aham esham mama ete. I belong to them, they belong to me. And so that by itself is we have to understand why that is a problem. And the reason why it's a problem is that it's only relationships that bring expectations. See, we do not have any expectations of some stranger. We do not have any expectations of things that we do not have a mamakara with. It is only that which we think belongs to us we have expectations of. And when that person or that thing fails to live up to our expectations, it causes anger, frustration, sorrow, misery. We say we have done so much for so and so, but they have failed to do that. They have failed to reciprocate. Why are they not behaving in the way that I want them to behave? And why does it make a difference to me? Because we consider them to belong to us. They are mine. So we don't have that same expectation of some random person on the street. So if some random person on the street does not talk to us for 2 days, we will not lose any sleep over it. But if our spouse or our children don't talk or our parents don't talk to us, then that we are very we suffer a lot as a result. And the reason for that is this mamakara. We that mamakara has resulted in raga dvesha, attachment, raga, or hatred, dvesha. Now the reverse also is true. Aham esham is they, I know, mama ete is they belong to me. Aham esham is I belong to them. And so the reversal of that is okay, they all are my responsibility, they all are my relatives. It is my duty to take care of them. It is my duty to provide for them. It is my duty to make them happy. I have an obligation towards them. All of this, both the ahamesham and the mama ete part, that Shankaracharya says, all of us using Arjunam Nimitti Kritya, using Arjuna as a means, he is teaching the Bhagavad Gita to all of us. And the root cause of that is this same ahamkara, mamakara only. And the reason for that ahamkara, mamakara is ajnana. And this is nothing but samsara. And Shankaracharya says, by knowing our true nature, that produces a jnanam, and that jnanam destroys the ajnanam, ignorance, and that ignorance destroyed automatically destroys the products of ignorance, being this ahamkara and mamakara. And he gives an example here, dig brahmadivate. He says, just like the confusion about directions is destroyed instantly by what? So, by the rise of the sun. So the sun rises. So we are in a place, we don't know where we are. We are going to Sandhya Vandanam, say. But we don't know which is east. And it's early in the morning, the sun hasn't risen yet. And we are in a new place, we do not know which is east. We don't know where to sit and do Sandhya Vandanam. And then suddenly the sun rises. And then immediately we know which is east. We don't need anything else. So where the sun rises is the east. So that is the direct product. So the rising of the sun produces a direct knowledge of the eastern direction. And the knowledge of the eastern direction produces knowledge of west, south, north, etc. So if you know one, you know the others. So the rising of the sun destroys the ignorance of the east. And the destruction of the ignorance of the east automatically removes the bhranti about the other directions also. And this is the example that Shankaracharya is. So one is a direct product of knowledge, and the other is a indirect product of knowledge. The knowledge of the East is a direct, the destruction of the ignorance of the East is a direct product of knowledge of the rising of the sun. And destruction of the ignorance of the other direction is an indirect product. Similar to that, the destruction of ajnana is a direct product of jnana, and the destruction of ahamkara, mamakara is an indirect product. So that's what Shankaracharya says, dig brahmadivate. Okay, so we'll go to the next verse. Verse number 47. Samyak vijnanavan yogi swatmanyevakhilam jagat ekancha sarvatmanam ikshate jnana chakshusha. So in the previous verses, we had talked about jivatva, ahamkara, mamakara, bhranti, nivritti. For the destruction of jivatva, jivanis, the destruction of ahamkara, ego, destruction of mamakara, possession. In this verse, Shankaracharya is talking about dvaita bhranti nivritti. It is the destruction of the mistaken notion of reality that we confer upon this Dvaita Prapancha, this dualistic universe. When we say dualistic, what we mean is this that multiplicity that we see here. Because we see it, we say it, we think it is real. And so if we ask, is the world real? We say, of course it's real. And if someone asks why, we say, because we see it. Shankaracharya is saying is that just because something is seen, it doesn't mean it is real. So Shankaracharya reveals the fundamental truth about Vedanta, that is Advaita. There is no duality whatsoever. There is only one Atma, Advaita Atma. So this whole universe is born out of the self. It rests in the self and dissolves in the self. As the Kaivalya Upanishad says, Mayyeva Sakalam Jatam, Mayi Sarvam Pratishtitam, Mayi Sarvam Layam Yati, Tad Brahmadvayam Asmyaham. I am, from me is this universe born, in me is this universe resting, and into me it resolves. And who am I? I am that Brahman, Tad Brahmaham, Asmi, Advayam, non-dual Brahman. So whenever we hear things like this, we automatically say, I cannot believe that, right? And so we have to always remember the dream example. Whenever we are unable to accept the mithyatva of the universe, and that we are the adhisthana, I as in Atma Chaitanya, consciousness, not this jiva, not this body, not this individual, but consciousness is the locus of this universe. When we are unable to accept that, and who is that consciousness? I am that consciousness. We should always remember the dream, because in the dream there is a dream subject and there's a dream universe. And this dream subject is being terrorized in this dream universe as a tiger chasing him, in the dream world, say. So that dream subject is undergoing samsara. But all of these things, the dream subject, the dream forest, the dream tiger, the dream fear, all of that are completely unreal, and they are all projections based in the mind of the sleeper. So they are projections of the sleeper's mind. Similar to that, this entire universe is a projection because of avidya on Atma. And who is that Atma? I am that Atma. When I know, when the sleeper gets up after that scary dream, he realizes that neither the dream subject is real, nor the dream tiger is real, nor the dream universe is real, dream forest, nothing is real. All of that is a projection in me. Similarly, when we wake up to our higher nature as Atma, we realize that all of this is a projection in and the self. And the real knowledge is that just like the dream universe, it is I, the Atma, who appears as this world. So whenever I am identified with this body, with this finite body and finite mind, I look upon myself as being located and supported in the world. When I drop the body identification, I realize that I am the Nirupadhika Chaitanya. I am the bodiless consciousness. I am the supporter of the world in which the world appears. As Shankaracharya had said in one of the previous verses, the whole universe is a bubble in me, the Satchidananda Chaitanya. So here we look at this. It is Samyak Vijnanavan Yogi. The yogi, the sadhana chatushtaya sampanna adhikari, who has done Shravana Manana Nididhyasana, and as a result of which has knowledge. What kind of knowledge? Samyak Vijnana. Well assimilated knowledge. Swatmanieva Akhilam Jagat. I look upon the entire universe as being located within me. He is the locus of this universe. So, In fact, there is an entire Adhikaranam in the Brahma Sutra called the Jubhadi Adhikaranam. The Jubhadi Adhikaranam is that there is a discussion as to what is the locus of the heaven and the earth that is mentioned in the Mundakopanishad mantra, Yasmin Dyauh Prithivi Chantariksham Otam Manas Sah Pranishta Sarvaihi Tam Eva Ekam Janatha Atmanam Anyavacho Vimunchatha Amritasya Esha Setuhu. So, Yasmin Dyauh Prithivi Chantariksham Otam, that in which the sky, Duloka, Prithvi, and Antarikshaloka are all located, are all supported by what? And the Sutrakara in that Adhikaranam establishes that the locus of that is the Paramatma, and that Paramatma's is the true nature of the Jivatma. The Atma Chaitanyam is the locus of the universe. And so anyway, coming back to this, he says, Swatmanyeva Akhilam Jagata Ikshate. He sees, he understands that the entire universe is located within me. Sarvam Ekam Atmanam Cha Ikshata. So this is the next stage of the understanding. So there are two levels here. The first level of the understanding is that this Drishya Prapancha, this world that I see, is supported by Drik, the seer, I the seer, consciousness, and the locus in which the universe is present. So, before Vedanta, I was a small, finite individual located in a vast universe. We think I am a speck in this vast cosmos. That is the knowledge that we have based on our everyday experience. And Shankaracharya, so once we start Vedanta, we do jnana, jnana sadhana, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, etc. And the first level of knowledge that we have is what Shankaracharya is describing in this verse, is this, I am not located in this universe. The universe is in fact located in me. I am the supporter of this universe. Previously, the universe is my supporter. Now, I am the supporter of the universe. I am the locus of this universe. And Shankaracharya says that also is not the ultimate understanding. The ultimate understanding is this universe that is there is none other than me itself. This universe is simply a mithya projection in me, the consciousness, and everything in this universe is nothing but me. Without me, that universe is not there. There is nothing there apart from me. So, first is, I am small, the universe is big. I am in the universe is the basic misunderstanding. The next level of understanding is, I am not in everything. No, I am not in this universe. Everything is in me. This is the next level of understanding. Final understanding is, I am everything. Sarvoham. And that's what he says, Sarvam Ekam Atmanancha Ikshate. He sees everything as the one Atma. It is nothing, this universe is nothing but the Atma appearing as a separate entity. It is only apparently real. It has no existence separate from me. And so, the ultimate understanding is Sarvatma Bhava. That is, Sarvam Ekam Atmanam. Ahameva Idagum Sarvam. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, in the Purushavidha Brahmana, the fourth Brahmana in the first Adhyaya, it says, Brahmava Idamagra Asi, Tad Atmanam Avet, Aham Brahmasmi. This is the Mahavakya. Aham Brahmasmi occurs in mantra 1410 of the Brihadaranyaka. Tad Atmanam Avet, Aham Brahmasmi, Tad Sarvam Abhavat. So Brahman alone was there in the beginning. It knew itself. How did it know itself? Aham Brahmasmi. It knew itself as Brahman, and it became all. So what is this Abhavat? Here, becoming is not some physical becoming. Everything that exists is nothing but me. That Sarvatma Bhava is what is being talked about. And so Shankaracharya says, Samyak Vijnanavan Yogi Swatmani Eva Akhilam Jagat Ikshate. He sees the entire universe within himself. And then Sarvam Ekam Atmanam Cha Ikshate. Not only does he say that everything is in me, he says, I am everything. So this will be elaborated in the next verse. But how does he see that? As a result of what? Shankaracharya says, Jnana Chakshusha Ikshate. He sees this through the eye that is wisdom. Wisdom born from studying the Shastra in a sampradayika manner, in a traditional manner, from a guru, and practicing the sadhana that the guru has entrusted upon us will lead us to the dawn of knowledge. And that in that eye of wisdom, Jnana Chakshusha, or the third eye of Shiva that we talk about, the Jnana Chakshu, we are able to see the universe for what it is. There is in Tirumandiram, there is a very beautiful verse. மரத்தை மறைத்தது மாமதையானை மரத்தில் மறைந்தது மாமதையானை பரத்தை மறைத்தது பார்முதல் பூதங்கள் பரத்தில் மறைந்தது முதல் பூதங்களே. So essentially what Tirumudar is saying, மரத்தை மறைத்தது மாமதையானை. So there was a person who was in a forest and he saw a wooden elephant, but he did not know it was made of wood. So when he first saw the elephant, he was like really scared. He thought there's a big elephant there. So that form of the elephant made us forget what that elephant is made of. That wood was hidden by the elephant. And then later what happened? Once you knew that it was the wood, that elephant loses its ability to scare us. So once we know Marathil Maraindadu Mamadayana. So the large elephant was then hidden by the wood. What does that mean? It means that we knew it was wood. It is not a real elephant. And so we no longer saw it as an elephant. We saw it as a wooden sculpture. And therefore the result of the erroneous notion previous was fear. The result of this right notion is freedom from fear. Similarly, he says, Parattai maraitadu parmudal bhurangale. So the earth and the other elements hid the Supreme. But once we realize that this universe is nothing but the Supreme, we don't see the universe anymore, we see only the Supreme. And so that's the same idea which is being conveyed here. Swatmani eva akhilam jagati ikshate sarvam cha ekam atmanam ikshate. Once you know that it is the Atma itself that is appearing as the world is as good as not there. Anyway, we'll go to the next verse. Atmai vedam jagate sarvam atmanonyan vidyate mudo yadvad ghatadini swatmanam sarvam ikshate. So, in the second line of the last verse, the highest stage of Vedanta, but I am all, is being elaborated here. It says, Atmaiva idam jagat sarvam, this entire universe is me alone, I the Atma alone, and there is none other than me. Atmanaha anyatna vidyate. Atmaivedam jagat sarvam, Atmanaha anyanna vidyate, mrudo yadvad ghatadini swatmanam sarvamikshate. So, it is Atmanaha anyatna vidyate. There is none other than the Atma. So, in the previous verse, the second last line of the previous verse was Ekam cha sarvamatmana nikshate jnana chakshusha. Shankaracharya is providing the commentary to that in the next verse. So, what is this Ekam cha sarvamatmana nikshate? He is saying Atmaivedam jagat sarvam Atmanaha anyatna vidyate. It is the Atma alone which is this entire universe. Apart from the Atma, there is nothing else. There is nothing other than the Atma. Swatmanam sarvamikshate. He looks upon everything as himself. Who is he? The Samyak Vijnanavan Yogi of the previous verse. Samyak Vijnanavan Yogi, the one possessing the well assimilated knowledge of Vedanta, looks upon the entire universe as himself, and that he knows that apart from him, the Atma, there is nothing else. And to provide an example for this, he says, Yadvat mridaha anyat ghatadini na vidyate. So just like apart the the pot, clay pot, and other vessels, etc., made of earthenware, terracotta ware or earthenware or whatever, what are they? Apart from the clay, is there anything there? No, they are clay through and through. Every single element of them is clay. So, just like apart from clay, pots and other earthenware are nothing. Similarly, apart from the universe, apart from Brahman or Atma, this universe is nothing. That's what Shankaracharya says. He explains this. And then next we will look at next verse, verse number 49. जीवन्मुक्तस्तु तद्विद्वान् पूर्वोपाधिगुणांस्त्यजेत् सच्चिदानन्दरूपत्वात् भवेत् भ्रमरकीटवत्. So here Shankaracharya is drawing a contrast to the two major phala of jnana. See, the Atma Jnani has goes on to become a Jivan Mukta, Shankaracharya says. The Atma Jnani who knows the above mentioned fact, which is that he alone is this universe, becomes a Jivan Mukta. That is, I am of a higher order of reality, and therefore nothing that happens in the world can affect me in reality. So just like the dream tiger cannot affect really the sleeper, similarly the world cannot affect me, the Atma. So the Jnani, even when suffering the pangs of prarabdha, the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, as someone said, Shakespeare, he can clearly says, I am Satchidananda Atma, Shivoham, Shivoham, he can claim. How can he say that? Because when he is saying, I am free, Muktoham, when he says, I am free from pain, I am free from sorrow, I am the entire universe. He will be a frail, weak human being, but he will say, I am the entire universe. How can he say that? He is talking of himself from the highest standpoint of reality. Even the weak, emaciated Jnani says, Ahamaya Vidagum Sarvam, on the basis of his true nature as Atma. He knows that none of the problems of the physical body or the mind are really his problems, because the physical body is not him. So the physical body is not him. It is not even in him. It is mithya. And therefore, the mithya problems of a mithya body really cannot affect the Satya Atma. So on that basis, the Jnani has the phalam that he is free from sorrow. He is free from samsara. However, there is also a secondary benefit of jnana, but that merely with jnana that will not come. That will require a little more than that. So to get the knowledge, the benefit of the knowledge, which is the experiential bliss, the experiential freedom from sorrow, that any experience can only be at a mental level. Even the Akhandakara vritti is a vritti, it is a mental thought only. So to get freedom at the mental level, that means what? It's a freedom at the anatma level. That you cannot get merely from knowledge. It requires something additional to knowledge. It will require the further refinement of the mind. See, normally seekers are interested in this benefit rather than the primary benefit. The primary benefit of knowledge is is the knowledge of the truth that the body and the mind cannot affect. But they want the body and the mind, especially the mind, to be free from sorrow. And so that will require a long period of nididhyasana, focused attention and dwelling upon the truth. That's what he says, sarvopadhi gunans tyajet. See, the mind has several intrinsic problems because of lot of purva vasanas, like latent tendencies, both formed in this birth and in previous births also. And so these vasanas will often be triggered by certain stimuli. And once they get triggered, then they automatically lead to agitation, it lead to raga dvesha, it lead to dukkha, etc. Even when one knows that I am not the Atma, the mind can undergo a lot of these turbulent problems. And in order to overcome these turbulent problems and have the capacity to withstand these turbulent problems, you will need to refine the mind further. Essentially, that indicates that the sadhana chatushtaya sampatti is not completely fulfilled. And that requires further nididhyasana in order to refine the mind to such an extent that it does not. Firstly, the first step of this is a reduction of the raga dvesha, a certain amount of what is known as vasanakshaya. It is an attenuation of these vasanas. So by dwelling on this reality, aham brahmasmi, by negating the universe as mithya, by negating kartritva, bhoktritva in the atma, by negating raga dvesha, and dwelling upon the truth over a period of time, what happens is that the vasanas that we used to have, the negative vasanas that we used to have, slowly start losing their ability to their strength. And that losing of their strength is called vasanakshaya. And we keep performing this nididhyasanam until the logical conclusion of vasanakshaya is manonasha. And so, manonasha is not actually the destruction of the mind. It's a technical term. What it means is that the mind is refined to such an extent that it no longer produces those vasanas. Right? It does not react, and when external stimuli come, those vasanas that were present no longer arise. And once that has happened, essentially that leads to what is known as Jivan Mukti. So, the experience of bliss and the ability to withstand the vagaries of fortune, not get too swayed by Raga Dvesha, is the benefit of Jivan Mukti. And that's why Shankaracharya uses the word Jivan Mukta tu. The two there is to show a difference versus the Samyak Vijnanavan. So that person knows the truth of Vedanta and gets the primary benefit. And the Jivan Mukta is one level beyond that, who, having practiced Nididhyasana for a period of time, what does he do? Purvopadhi gunans tyajet. All the Purva Upadhi, that is the mind, etc., that used to be his adjunct. The guna means habitual thinking patterns, the vasanas, etc. He has, through vasanakshaya and manonasha, he has sufficiently refined the mind. Such a vidwan, tad vidwan, jivan mukta bhavet. Such a vidwan becomes a jivan mukta, Shankaracharya says. And how does he discard these purvopadhi gunan? Shankaracharya says Satchidananda Rupatva, because his true nature is Satchidananda, and therefore by a consistent practice of Nididhyasana and dwelling upon the truth, that he is Satchidananda Atma, the mind is not him. The mind loses its ability to be influenced or agitated because of vasanas. And so the individual becomes a Jivan Mukta. And so the Shankaracharya gives an example, Bhramara Kitavati. Now, this is an example in Shastra that's given, a very famous example. It's called Bhamaraketa Nyaya. But it seems that there used to be a wasp. And what the wasp does is it catches a worm and it puts it in its nest and it constantly keeps stinging that worm. And so, what the people observing in ancient times thought was that, and then after some time, from that wasp, another wasp nest, another wasp used to come. So they used to think that the Kita itself became the wasp. So the worm, because it was they attributed that the reason why the worm itself became the wasp is because it was constantly fixated upon this wasp. It constantly kept contemplating upon this wasp, and therefore it itself became the wasp. So this is called Brahmaraketa Nyaya. Now, obviously, modern biology says no, that's not the case. It's the worm was put in that wasp, and there were like tiny wasp eggs, and so the wasp hatched and it fed on the worm, etc. I mean, all of that is different. The basic principle is, as you think, so you become, and that is something that we experience in our life also. So, by constantly dwelling upon Brahman, we become Jivan Mukta. We become a Jivan Mukta. The problems associated with being a Jiva are, uh, are, are lost, and we get the practical benefits also of experiencing happiness, infinite bliss, experiencing or not getting affected by sorrow, not getting affected by samsara. And so Shankaracharya uses the Bhavarakita Nyaya. The example may not be biologically true. We're not very worried about that. But what the exemplified is pointing towards is that a constant contemplation of Atma, one becomes the Atma itself. So, okay, anyway. So, with that, we will bring this session to a close, and then we will take up the rest of the Atma Bodha verses in the next session. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.